Well, I'm always asking you to get out there and compost all those wonderful watermelon rinds and all that other great stuff you have left after a fantastic meal. And what does it become? Well, all this fantastic food. We're incredibly fortunate today to be here at the Community Supported Agriculture, the CSA Pickup with Jeff Poppin, the Barefoot Farmer. Jeff, I'm so glad to be here, and today we are playing Ask the Barefoot Farmer, and I get the first question. Are you ready?
Okie dokie.
My first question is rhubarb. Now, I'm growing rhubarb. I've been growing it for a few years, and one of my friends keeps asking me, and I'm a little stumped myself, so I hope you won't be. They're saying, why isn't it completely red? Why are you growing green rhubarb, and is it ready to eat?
Okay. Rhubarb comes in a couple of different colors. There's a red rhubarb, like we used to grow up in Illinois, and it grows commercially in Canada in cooler weather. When I came down south, all the rhubarb was green. It's a different variety, and I tried growing some of the red rhubarb, and I didn't have any luck with it. So I think that the green rhubarb is what's the best thing to do in Tennessee.
Fantastic, and I like it with strawberries. We're a rhubarb and strawberry pie. So I'm satisfied I got a great answer for my friends. Let's see what the folks here have to ask you.
Would you like to take some
also.
rhubarb home, or do you have plenty?
I got plenty right now.
Okay.
Thank you. I've got Jeff and Joe here. Jeff, what's your question for Jeff?
My question for Jeff is, do I compost often and always, or do I cycle it through? I mean, I have these beans coming up, the second crop beans. Do I just compost all the time?
Well, it depends on how much you put on in the spring.
Well, I got the bed going, and I got a crop out of it. Then I cleared that out, and then I replanted to get a second crop. Okay. And they're up about this high right now.
Great. Yeah, we have a lot of fall stuff up too, and we don't compost again because we put a lot on in the spring. So it just depends on how much and how fertile your ground was. Okay. But we do, one thing that we do is we rotate the crops, so that where we had the beans, we might plant squash for fall, and where we had the squash, we might plant beans. Okay. So we're utilizing different nutrients from the soil and different growing conditions.
My question is on composting.
Yeah.
We bought a tumbleweed composter.
Okay.
We're supposed to be able to tumble it, but we can't get enough heat generated. We're putting some dried leaves in there, some clippings from trimming hedges, and garden waste. What are we doing wrong?
Okay, well what you're doing is you're adding a lot of carbon in your compost, but not much nitrogen. And as we were talking earlier, carbon is brought in from the air and the soils to make the things that make life. Right. And so we need that carbon, but to make something rot, we have to have nitrogen too, usually in the ratio of 25-to-1 carbon to nitrogen ratio. And the nitrogen is what gives it the heat and the oomph to break down the carbon. You can sort of picture how long it takes wood chips or leaves to break down. They're very carbonaceous. Now, on the other hand, when you have nitrogen in there with it, like something like manure and hay mixed together, it'll rot a lot quicker.
Is grass clippings a good source of nitrogen?
They're a little better if they're green, but you would still want more nitrogen because they would still be high on the carbon to nitrogen.
So you suggest actually put a little manure in it?
I think that would help heat it up a whole lot.
Thank you so much.
Or something else with nitrogen.
Okay, thank you.
I have some little aphids getting on my tomatoes, and so I'm wondering what is an organic method to keep the aphids off the tomatoes.
Yeah, well, aphids are called plant lice, and I feel like they're just a natural part of the plants, and I don't ever bother doing anything about aphids. They tend to come when the plant has a little bit extra nitrogen and that new growth that's shooting out.
Yeah.
But oftentimes the aphids just sort of help to check the plant's growth, and they don't really seem to do a whole lot of damage in our garden.
Oh, okay.
They are tended by ants, and sometimes you'll see ants on the leaves.
Yeah.
That will actually protect the aphids, and then they can become a problem, and ant control is really what's called for at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they're not a problem. I see them sitting on them,
and how are your tomatoes doing?
They're doing pretty good, except they're starting to crack a little bit. I think I need more water or something. I'm not sure.
Well, oftentimes cracking is from too much water.
Too much water.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I might back off on the water.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, he's getting too much water soluble nitrogen maybe and that extra growth, the aphids coming. But the bugs are just Mother Nature's way of coming in and trying to teach you something.
Heather's got a question.
I do
Heather.
have a question.
What's your question, Heather?
The difference between sustainability and organic.
What is the difference between sustainability and organic?
Yes.
Sustainability refers to something being able to go on for a long time, and organic refers to having a carbon in the chain.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Jeff. My name is Becky, to clarify that for you. And my question, Ben, is everyone thinks that in terms of a carbon footprint, they're so concerned about that. What is your opinion in terms of it?
Oh, that's something I don't know much about. We were picking corn last night. We were wondering how much carbon we were sequestering into it was about an acre of sweet corn. Mm-hmm. And where does that carbon come from? Does it come from the air or the soil? Mm-hmm. And our feeling is that we're bringing in a lot of carbon through the type of farming that we're doing. Mm-hmm. But I don't really know the figures on it.
So do you feel that it needs to be reduced, or are you comfortable with the amount that we, considering that we are a part of this with you, we're producing?
Well, on my end of the deal, it's probably pretty good because I'm just raising the vegetables, but then once we start putting them in vehicles and driving them all over the place, I think we start losing some of the value because, of course, then we're wasting going the other direction with our carbon. What do you want to know about?
Why are you barefoot?
Why am I barefoot? Well, because it's summertime, and I like going barefoot in the summer.
So here's the thing. Last year in 2007 we had a horrible drought, and continually people were asking me, "Are you watering? Are you watering?" Did you water last year in the big drought?
No.
Why not?
Because we just don't have to.
And see, I want to understand why you don't have to when other people who were trying to water went under. How did you manage?
Well, we put a whole lot of compost and care into our soils so that they have a live humus. And then this humus is able to suck the moisture up during the spring. And then when it's dry, there's like a big sponge underneath my farm. And then there's a lot of dew there also that the plants are able to absorb because they have this interaction with live soil human beings in the soil humus.
So healthy soil is really the key.
That's absolutely true.
So those of us who are trying to supplement with our own at-home gardens,
Great.
What can we be doing with our composting to get that kind of soil throughout the year?
Well, getting quantities of it would be good. Do you have access to some horse manure or cow manure?
Yeah, that's what I did this year because I didn't have the compost already.
Right.
I had somebody deliver it to me.
Yeah, so even for a small area like it's just as big as from here to the tree where these vegetables are, I would want at least a pickup truckload of compost, if not two, and put as much on as you can.
Okay.
And then
throughout the year with scraps from the kitchen and leaves from
yes,
the lawn,
all that kind of stuff you should put in, add to it, and just keep that, all the time be throwing organic matter. Everything that was alive once is good fertilizer.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's not as complicated as I thought.
No, it's really not. Just throw it on.
It'll rot.
In Europe, what they do is it's very common for old timers, instead of having this disgusting thing that we call the compost bucket in our kitchens that has all this icky, smelly stuff, is that for every meal, you would just have a plate of the vegetable scraps. You go out the back door into the kitchen garden, and there'd be a trench. And you just throw that in the trench, put a little soil on it as you make the other side of the next part of the trench. And it was dealt with in that way, and then in a year, you would have a nice row to plant in. And you wouldn't have the stinky compost bucket thing to deal with.
Nice, I like that.
We've got a wonderful basket of vegetables here. What are you picking out?
This, but how did this get so ugly and twisted?
Well, it's an heirloom tomato, and it's not as pretty as the hybrids, but they have really good flavor. So trust me, you'll enjoy it.
Okay.
That's what
What is this?
What in the world is that? It looks like a big smile. This is a squash called trombosini, and it's trombone in Italian, and it's a vining squash that's eaten just like a summer squash, like you would a zucchini. And it's in the moscata family, which is what butternuts are in. You can sort of see the coloring is almost kind of like a butternut if it would get tan. But they're eaten in the younger stage as a summer squash. We grow them on a fence. They like to grow up on a vine. So ours are already this tall, and they're starting to grow this direction, and they've got some green beans nearby, very worried. Look at some of these other shapes of them. Want to take one of those home?
Sarah, you have a question for Jeff.
Yes, Jeff, what variety of beets are you growing?
We're growing 2 different kinds of beets. The ones in this basket right here are Detroit dark red, and it's a very common beet, very beautiful color. Yeah, and then this here, these pinkish ones are one called Chioggia, and it's an Italian beet. And it has really pretty red and white concentric circles in it.
Jeff, I've had a great time out here with your customers. It sounds like they're thrilled to talk with you and that everybody wants to know how to compost, how to raise such wonderful vegetables, and they love the fact they're coming from such a great source, so close. Now, if you want to know more about how your food is grown, well, join a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture. Go to a farmer's market and meet the actual farmers that are growing your food, or even grow your own at home. And Jeff, I'm afraid I've got to step off here and eat a little of this so I can make some more compost.
Okie dokie.